The rope binding Saren's wrists cuts deeper with every step, but the pain barely registers anymore. What burns far worse is the grip on her arm, her own father's fingers digging into her flesh as he drags her toward the border crossing. Behind them, her brother Torin follows with that satisfied smirk he's worn since dawn, when they ripped her from her bed and announced her fate. "Please," she whispers, her voice cracking. "Father, I'm your daughter. Your blood." Aldrich doesn't look at her. His jaw remains fixed, his eyes trained on the dark tree line ahead where their enemies wait. "You stopped being my daughter the moment you manifested that curse." The curse, her healing gift. The ability that should have made her valuable to the Ashwood Pack has instead made her an outcast. In a world where wolves prove their worth through combat and dominance, a healer represents everything they despise: softness, mercy, weakness. "The Blackmore Pack will find uses for you," Torin says, his voice dripping with cruel amusement. "I hear their alpha enjoys breaking difficult wolves. Should be entertaining." Saren's blood turns to ice. Everyone knows the stories about the Blackmore Pack. Their territory borders Ashwood lands, and for generations, the two packs have existed in bitter rivalry. Skirmishes, raids, bloodshed, an endless cycle of hatred. And now her own family is handing her to those monsters as a peace offering. The trees part ahead, revealing a clearing lit by torchlight. A dozen Blackmore warriors wait in formation, their dark armor gleaming like beetle shells. At their center stands a wolf who can only be their alpha. Varen of Blackmore is everything the rumors promised: tall, broad, with a face that looks carved from cruelty itself. A scar bisects his left eye, leaving it milky and dead. His remaining eye, pale as winter ice, fixes on Saren with the hunger of a predator sizing up wounded prey. "This is the one?" His voice grates like stone against stone. Aldrich shoves Saren forward. She stumbles, nearly falling, but catches herself at the last moment. She will not grovel. Not for her father. Not for this monster. "The healer," Aldrich confirms. "As promised. Untouched. Healthy. Ready for whatever purpose you see fit." Varen descends from his position, each step deliberate and menacing. When he reaches Saren, he grabs her chin with bruising force, turning her face side to side like she's livestock at market. "Scrawny thing," he mutters. "Those hands better work miracles, or she'll wish her father had simply drowned her at birth." The casual cruelty of the words makes Saren's stomach lurch, but she forces herself to meet his dead eye without flinching. Something flickers in his expression: surprise, perhaps, at finding defiance where he expected terror. "Spirit," he observes. "Good. I do enjoy the ones with spirit. They last longer before they shatter." He releases her chin and turns to Aldrich. "The payment, as agreed. 20 soldiers for your border defense. The Ashwood Pack's debt is cleared. 20 soldiers. That's her worth. 20 borrowed warriors in exchange for a lifetime of suffering." Saren watches her father accept the terms without hesitation, without a single glance back at the daughter he's condemning. Torin actually laughs, clapping their father on the shoulder like they've concluded a successful hunt. "Take her," Varen commands his men. "We ride for Blackmore before dawn." Rough hands seize Saren's arms. She's hauled toward a waiting cart, a cage on wheels, meant for prisoners and animals. This is it. This is how her life ends, not with death, but with a fate far worse. Then the wind shifts. Every wolf in the clearing freezes. Varen's head snaps up, his nostrils flaring. The Blackmore warriors reach for their weapons, their earlier confidence evaporating like morning mist. Something is coming, something that makes even these hardened killers tremble. The forest erupts. Warriors pour from the tree line, not Blackmore, not Ashwood, but wolves bearing the silver and black of a pack Saren has only heard whispered about in fearful tones. The Stormvale Pack, the Alpha King's wolves, and at their head rides a figure that steals the breath from her lungs. He sits astride a massive black warhorse, his presence radiating power so absolute that Saren's wolf immediately drops into submission. Dark hair frames a face of savage beauty, sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes the color of molten amber that seem to glow in the torchlight. Kael Stormvale, the Alpha King, ruler of the 5 territories, the wolf who united warring packs through sheer dominance, and now commands an empire. What is he doing here? His amber gaze sweeps the clearing, taking in the scene with predatory assessment. The Blackmore warriors, the Ashwood delegation, the prisoner cart. Then his gaze finds Saren, and stops. Something crosses his features. Shock, recognition, hunger. His nostrils flare once, twice, and his entire body goes rigid. The warhorse beneath him stamps nervously, sensing its rider's sudden tension. That woman, he says, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade forged in ice. Who is she? Varen steps forward, his earlier confidence replaced by careful deference. Even the Alpha of Blackmoor knows better than to challenge the king directly. A purchase, Your Majesty. A healer from Ashwood. Nothing that concerns the crown. The Alpha King dismounts in one fluid motion. He crosses the clearing with predatory grace, his warriors parting before him like water. Every step brings him closer to Saren, and with every step, that strange intensity in his eyes burns brighter. He stops mere inches from her. This close, she can feel the raw power emanating from his body, can smell pine and thunder and something wild that makes her wolf keen with a need she doesn't understand. Her scent, he breathes, so quietly only she can hear. His hand rises to cup her cheek, not roughly like Varen, but with devastating gentleness. Impossible. Your Majesty, Varen tries again. The transaction is complete. She belongs to Blackmoor now. The Alpha King's eyes never leave Saren's face. But when he speaks, his voice carries the weight of mountains. She belongs to no one but me. His thumb traces her cheekbone, and his next words reshape the world. This woman is my fated mate, and you have just committed an act of war. Chaos erupts. Varen's face contorts with disbelief, then fury. Your Majesty, surely you're mistaken. She's just an Omega, a worthless. Choose your next words carefully. The Alpha King's voice drops to a deadly whisper. You speak of your future queen. The words hit Saren like a physical blow. Queen? Fated mate? She must be dreaming. She must be dead, and this is some cruel trick her mind is playing before the darkness takes her. But the warmth of his hand on her cheek feels devastatingly real. Father, Torrin's voice cracks with sudden fear. Father, what do we do? Aldrich has gone pale as bone. The man who showed no emotion while selling his daughter now trembles before the consequences of his actions. Your Majesty, we had no knowledge, there was no way to know. You sold your own blood to your enemies. The Alpha King finally turns from Saren, and the absence of his touch leaves her strangely cold. What manner of wolves are you? His gaze sweeps to Varen. And you, purchasing another Alpha's mate like common chattel. The treaty between Stormvale and Blackmoor is hereby dissolved. Your Majesty, Varen snarls, desperation cracking his composure. You would plunge the territories into war over one Omega? I would burn the world entire. The words are spoken quietly, but they carry the promise of absolute devastation. Brennan, a scarred warrior, steps forward, his weathered face professionally neutral. My king, send riders to every corner of the realm. The Blackmoor pack has 3 days to surrender unconditionally, or I march on their fortress with the full strength of Stormvale. He pauses, his golden eyes flickering back to Saren. And take the Ashwood delegation into custody. They will answer for their crimes against their own. No! Aldrich lunges forward. She was worthless to us. A burden. You cannot. One of the king's guards drives a fist into her father's stomach, dropping him to his knees. Saren watches without pity. Whatever love she once held for her family died the moment they bound her wrists. Get them out of my sight, the Alpha King commands. As guards drag away her father and brother, Varen makes his move. His hand closes around a dagger at his belt, his body tensing for a desperate strike. He never completes the motion. The Alpha King moves faster than Saren's eyes can track. One moment he stands beside her. The next, his hand is locked around Varen's throat, lifting the Blackmoor Alpha off his feet. You dare? The king's voice resonates with pure alpha dominance, pressing down on everyone present until even his own warriors bow their heads. You dare raise steel against your king? Varen's legs kick uselessly. His face purples as he claws at the iron grip, crushing his windpipe. The next time we meet, the Alpha King says softly, I will remove your head from your shoulders and mount it on my gate. Consider this your only warning. He releases his grip. Varen crumples to the ground, gasping for air. Take your wolves and run back to Blackmoor. Tell them what awaits if they choose war. The Blackmoor delegation flees into the darkness, their earlier arrogance reduced to desperate retreat. Within moments, only Stormvale warriors remain in the clearing. The Alpha King turns to Saren. His expression shifts, the cold fury softening into something she cannot name. Concern, perhaps, or wonder. Are you injured? She shakes her head, not trusting her voice. Too much has happened too quickly. An hour ago, she was a prisoner being sold to monsters. Now she stands before the most powerful wolf in existence, and he's looking at her like she's something precious. The ropes. His jaw tightens as he notices her bound wrists. Gently, so gently it makes her chest ache. He takes her hands and cuts the binding with a knife from his belt. The rope falls away, revealing raw, bloodied skin. His breath hisses through his teeth. They will suffer for every mark on your body. My king, Brennan interrupts carefully. We should move. Blackmore may return with reinforcements. Agreed. The Alpha King shrugs off his cloak and wraps it around Saren's shoulders. The fabric holds his warmth, his scent, and she finds herself drawing it closer without thinking. Can you ride? Yes, I think so. You'll ride with me. It's not a request. He whistles sharply, and the black warhorse trots forward. In one powerful motion, he mounts and extends his hand to her. Saren hesitates. Everything is happening so fast. This man claims she's his fated mate, has declared war on 2 packs for her sake, and now offers to sweep her away to his kingdom. She should be terrified. But when she looks into those molten amber eyes, she feels something she hasn't experienced in years. Safety. She takes his hand. He pulls her up effortlessly, settling her before him in the saddle. His arms come around her to grip the reins, caging her in warmth and strength. To Stormvale. He commands his warriors. We ride through the night. As the company surges forward into the darkness, Saren allows herself one glance back at the clearing where her life changed forever. Her father's betrayal brought her here. Her family's cruelty delivered her to this moment. But perhaps fate knew what it was doing all along. They ride for hours through mountain passes and dense forests. Saren drifts between waking and sleeping, exhaustion finally claiming her body now that the immediate danger has passed. Each time she stirs, she finds herself still cradled against the Alpha King's chest, his steady heartbeat a rhythm that soothes her restless wolf. He hasn't spoken since they departed, but his arms remain secure around her, protecting her from the cold night air. She shouldn't feel this comfortable with a stranger. Yet her wolf recognizes something in him that defies logic, a pull deep in her bones that whispers of destiny and belonging. Dawn breaks as they crest a final ridge, and Saren's breath catches. The Stormvale fortress sprawls across the valley below, a magnificent structure of pale stone and gleaming spires. Unlike the dark, brutal architecture she expected, the castle seems almost to glow in the morning light, its walls carved with intricate patterns that speak of artistry rather than mere defense. Welcome to your new home, the Alpha King murmurs against her ear. Your new home. The words feel surreal. They descend into the valley, passing through a massive gate where guards bow deeply at their king's approach. Word has clearly preceded them. Servants line the courtyard, their faces a mixture of curiosity and concern as they watch the king ride in with an unknown woman in his arms. He dismounts first, then reaches up to lift Saren down. For a moment, she's suspended in his grip, her hands braced on his shoulders, their faces inches apart. His golden eyes search hers with an intensity that makes her pulse quicken. Then he sets her gently on the cobblestones and steps back. Brennan, summon the council. We have much to discuss. He turns to an older woman with kind eyes who approaches with a respectful bow. Helene, this is Saren. She is to be treated with every courtesy. Prepare the chambers adjacent to my own, and see that she wants for nothing. Helene's eyebrows rise slightly, but she nods without question. Of course, Your Majesty. Come, my dear. Let's get you bathed and fed. Before Saren can respond, before she can ask any of the 1,000 questions burning in her mind, the Alpha King strides away toward the fortress interior, his commanders falling into step behind him. And just like that, she's alone with strangers once again. Helene guides her through winding corridors with gentle efficiency. The bath that follows is heaven-hot water scented with lavender, washing away the grime and fear of her ordeal. Clean clothes appear as if by magic, simple but finely made. For the first time in days, Saren feels almost human. But as the immediate comforts settle around her, confusion takes their place. The Alpha King claimed her as his fated mate. He declared war for her sake, yet he's barely spoken to her directly, hasn't explained what any of this means for her future. Is she a guest? A prize? A pawn in some political game she doesn't understand? The answers don't come that day, or the next. Saren finds herself in a strange limbo. She has fine chambers, excellent food, and servants who treat her with cautious deference. But she's not permitted to leave her wing of the fortress, and the Alpha King remains conspicuously absent. She sees him only from her window crossing the courtyard with his generals, addressing gathered warriors, always surrounded by the machinery of impending war. War she caused. The thought weighs on her constantly. On her 3rd morning, Saren decides she's had enough of waiting. She slips past the servants and navigates the corridors she's memorized through observation, eventually finding her way to the training grounds. If she's going to be trapped here, she should at least understand what kind of pack she's joined. What she witnesses makes her stomach turn. The Stormvale warriors train with brutal efficiency, But it's not their skill that disturbs her. It's the injuries they endure without complaint. Broken bones snapping audibly, deep gashes flowing freely, wolves continuing to fight through damage that would cripple lesser creatures, and no one stops to treat them. They don't heal them, she whispers to herself, horrified. Healing is weakness. The voice comes from behind her, low and resonant with authority. Saren spins to find a man watching her from the shadows, tall, silver-haired, with features that echo the Alpha King's bone structure but none of his warmth. His pale gray eyes assess her with cold calculation. You must be the Omega. He steps closer, and she instinctively retreats. The one my nephew started a war over. Nephew. This must be a relative of the king's then. Someone important. I'm Mordecai, he continues, confirming her suspicion. The king's uncle and chief advisor. I've been curious to meet the woman who's thrown our entire realm into chaos. I didn't ask him to. No, Mordecai cuts her off smoothly. You didn't. That's precisely what concerns me. His gaze sharpens. Fated mates are powerful bonds, but they're also vulnerabilities. Our enemies will see you as a target, a pressure point, someone to exploit. Saren lifts her chin, refusing to be intimidated. Then I'll learn to defend myself. A hint of surprise crosses Mordecai's features, grudging interest. Perhaps. Spirit, he observes. Kyle mentioned that about you. He steps back, his assessment apparently complete. A word of advice, Omega. My nephew may believe in fate, but I believe in strength. Prove your worth to this pack, or I'll ensure you're sent somewhere your presence can't endanger us. He walks away before she can respond. Saren stands frozen in the corridor, her pulse racing with a new kind of fear. The Alpha King may have claimed her, but his own uncle clearly sees her as a threat to be eliminated. She has no allies here, no friends, no one who truly wants her presence, and the only person who might protect her has barely acknowledged her existence since they arrived. That night, alone in her chambers, Saren makes a decision. She will not be a burden. She will not be a vulnerability. Whatever it takes, she'll prove her worth to this pack, even if she has to defy every rule they have to do it. A week passes in the Stormvale Fortress, and Saren learns to navigate its harsh rhythms. She wakes before dawn, watches the warriors train from hidden vantage points, and studies the pack's dynamics with the careful attention of a survivor. Mordecai's warning echoes constantly in her mind: prove your worth, or be discarded. But how can she prove anything when her only gift is the one they despise? The opportunity comes unexpectedly. She's walking through the servants' quarters when she hears a muffled sob from behind a storage room door. Inside, she finds a young kitchen girl cradling her hand against her chest, tears streaming down her face. Please, Saren says softly, kneeling beside her. Let me see. The burn is severe, angry red flesh already blistering from contact with a hot cooking pot. The girl, who can't be more than 14, tries to hide it. It's nothing, my lady. I'll be fine. We heal. Not fast enough to avoid infection. Saren gently takes the injured hand. I can help, if you'll let me. The girl's eyes widen with fear. But healing is... I know what they say. Saren's hands begin to glow with soft golden light. But I also know unnecessary suffering serves no purpose. The healing takes only moments. When it's done, the burn has vanished completely, leaving smooth, healthy skin behind. The kitchen girl stares at her hand in wonder, then at Saren with something like reverence. Thank you, she breathes. Thank you, my lady. Saren. Just Saren. She squeezes the girl's fingers gently. And perhaps we keep this between us for now. But secrets have a way of spreading. Within days, others begin to seek her out. A stable hand with a twisted ankle, a seamstress whose fingers ache from endless needlework, a guard with an infected cut he's been hiding for fear of appearing weak. Saren helps them all, always quietly, always carefully. And slowly, something begins to shift in the way the servants look at her. Where there was suspicion, now she sees hesitant gratitude. Where there was distance, now she finds shy smiles. She's making a difference, even if no one of importance notices, or so she thinks. The summons comes on her 10th night at the fortress. A guard appears at her chamber door with an expression of rigid formality. The Alpha King requests your presence in his private study. Her stomach tightens with anticipation as she follows him through corridors she hasn't seen before, ascending a spiral staircase to the highest tower of the fortress. The guard stops before massive oak doors and knocks once. Enter. The familiar voice sends shivers down her spine. The study is warm and surprisingly intimate, walls lined with books, a fire crackling in the hearth, maps spread across a massive desk. And there, silhouetted against the window, stands Kale. He's shed his formal armor for simple dark clothing that somehow makes him more imposing, not less. The firelight catches the sharp planes of his face, the molten depths of his gaze as he turns to study her. "Leave us," he tells the guard, who bows and retreats. The door closes with a soft click. They're alone. Saren waits, unsure whether to speak or remain silent. He's the one who summoned her, after all. Let him begin. "You've been busy." His voice is neutral, unreadable. "My servants speak of a healer who tends their wounds in secret, injuries that should take days to mend vanishing overnight." Her stomach drops. "My king, I can explain. I'm not angry." He moves closer, and she catches his scent pine and storm winds, and something wild that makes her wolf whimper with longing. "I'm curious. You know healing is considered weakness here. You know my uncle watches your every move, yet you help them anyway." "I couldn't just watch them suffer." The words come out more forcefully than she intends. "Not when I have the power to ease their pain." "What purpose does that serve?" His expression shifts almost imperceptibly. "You sound like someone I knew once." "Who?" He's quiet for a long moment, his gaze distant. Then he moves to the fireplace, staring into the flames as if they hold answers to questions she hasn't asked. "My mother," he says finally. "She was a healer, the finest in all the territories. She believed exactly as you do, that compassion was its own form of strength." Saren steps closer, drawn by the rawness in his voice. "What happened to her?" "She died, along with my father and most of our original pack." His jaw tightens. "We were ambushed by enemies who saw our healing traditions as weakness. They weren't wrong. We were so focused on mercy that we forgot to be vigilant. My mother tried to save the wounded even as the slaughter continued around her. She died with her hands still glowing." The pain in his words steals her breath. "I'm so sorry. I was 7 years old." He turns to face her, and she sees the ghost of that terrified boy beneath the Alpha King's mask. "My uncle saved me, carried me through enemy lines and raised me to be strong, to never show the weakness that got my parents killed." "But you don't believe healing is weakness." It's not a question. She can see the conflict in his eyes, the war between what he was taught and what he feels. "I don't know what I believe anymore." His hand rises to cup her cheek, just as he did that first night. "But I know that when I found you in that clearing, something inside me recognized something in you. Not just the mate bond, something deeper." Her pulse thunders so loudly she's certain he can hear it. "Kael." His name feels foreign on her tongue, intimate in a way that makes her cheeks flush. His eyes darken at the sound. "I've avoided you since we arrived," he admits. "I thought distance would help me think clearly. Instead, I find myself watching you from across courtyards, asking servants for reports of your welfare, lying awake wondering if you're comfortable in your chambers. I thought you'd forgotten about me." "Impossible!" His thumb traces her cheekbone, sending electricity dancing across her skin. "You're in my blood now, Saren. In every breath I take." She should step back. She should remember her place, remember that she's still essentially a stranger here, and remember that a war is brewing because of her. Instead, she leans into his touch. "Your uncle thinks I'm a threat," she whispers. "He warned me to prove my worth or be sent away." Kael's expression hardens. Mordecai oversteps. "You are my mate. No one will send you anywhere." But he's not wrong. She forces herself to hold his gaze. "I am a vulnerability. Your enemies will target me. Unless," she takes a breath, "unless I become something more. Let me heal your people openly, Kael. Let me prove that compassion and strength can coexist." The conflict in his eyes intensifies. She can see him wrestling with generations of taught belief, with his uncle's voice in his head, with the memory of his mother dying because mercy made her weak. "I cannot promise to change everything overnight," he says slowly. "But I can promise this: you will not hide anymore. Heal those who come to you willingly. We'll see what happens." It's not everything she wanted, but it's a beginning. "Thank you," she breathes. His hand slides from her cheek to the back of her neck, drawing her closer. "Don't thank me yet. My uncle won't accept this easily, and the war with Blackmore approaches. Darker days are coming. Then we'll face them together." Something blazes in his amber gaze, hope, perhaps, or the beginning of love. He lowers his head, his lips brushing her forehead in a kiss so tender it makes her ache. "Together," he agrees. The weeks that follow transform Saren's existence at Stormvale. True to his word, Kael announces that the healer is to be respected, her services available to any who seek them willingly. The declaration sends shockwaves through the pack. Warriors who once sneered at the mention of healing now watch her with wary curiosity. Mordecai's displeasure radiates like cold wind whenever she passes, but he holds his tongue. For now. Slowly, people begin to come. The servants first, they already know her kindness and spread word of her gentle touch. Then the lower-ranked wolves, those whose injuries heal slowly and who cannot afford weeks of diminished capacity. Finally, hesitantly, a few warriors seek her out under cover of darkness. "Tell no one," they always say, shame coloring their cheeks. "Your secret is safe," she always replies. But more than physical healing, something else begins to change. The fortress itself seems to breathe easier. Where once there was only the clash of weapons and barked orders, now she occasionally hears laughter drifting from the barracks. Children who previously trained with grim determination now sometimes pause to play, their giggles echoing off ancient stones. Saren moves through it all with growing confidence, her healing light touching corners of Stormvale that haven't known gentleness in generations. And through it all, there is Kale. He finds reasons to visit her throughout each day, brief encounters that leave her breathless, stolen moments that feel like promises. They walk the fortress walls at sunset, discussing everything from philosophy to pack politics. He tells her of his dreams for the realm, and she shares memories of her childhood before her gift manifested and her family turned cold. With each conversation, she falls deeper, but the shadow of war never fully recedes. Scouts report that Blackmoor musters its forces. Varen has called upon old alliances, building an army to challenge the Alpha King's authority. The 3-day deadline passed weeks ago. Now it's simply a matter of when, not if. "I ride out tomorrow," Kyle tells her one evening as they stand on the battlements, watching the sun bleed crimson across the horizon. "Our forces will intercept Blackmoor before they can reach Stormvale lands." Saren's chest tightens. She knew this moment would come, but knowing doesn't ease the fear. How long? A few weeks, perhaps longer, depending on how the campaign unfolds. He turns to face her, his golden eyes soft in the fading light. "I need you to promise me something. Anything. Stay safe. Don't antagonize my uncle. And don't stop healing." His hand finds hers, their fingers intertwining. "When I return, I want to see what you've built here. I want to see my pack transformed. And if you don't return," the words taste like ash, but she forces them out, "then you'll be protected. I've made arrangements." His grip tightens. "But I will return, Saren. I have too much to live for now." He kisses her then properly, deeply, a kiss that speaks of longing and promise and barely restrained passion. When they finally part, both breathing heavily, his forehead rests against hers. "Wait for me," he whispers. "Always." Dawn comes too quickly. Saren watches from the highest tower as Kale leads his army through the fortress gates, his black armor gleaming, his wolf warriors howling their readiness for battle. He looks up once, finding her window as if drawn by instinct, and raises his hand in farewell. Then he's gone. The days that follow feel hollow without him. Saren throws herself into her healing work with renewed determination, partly to honor his request and partly to keep the loneliness at bay. And gradually, she realizes something beautiful is happening. Warriors who once accepted her help in secret now approach openly, no longer ashamed to seek healing. The pack's attitude shifts from reluctant tolerance to genuine appreciation. A grizzled veteran who initially refused her aid becomes her most vocal advocate after she saves his sword arm from permanent damage. "The Omega has spirit," she overhears him telling younger wolves. "Maybe there's something to this healing business after all." Even the children change. They seek her out not just for scraped knees and bruised elbows, but for comfort, for stories, for the maternal warmth that seems to have been bred out of Stormvale generations ago. Mordecai watches all of it with increasingly cold eyes. But without Kale present to challenge, he can do nothing overt. The king's orders stand. 3 weeks pass. Then 4. Saren begins to worry. News from the front arrives in fragments, a successful skirmish here, a strategic retreat there. The war grinds on without clear victory. Supplies are sent, wounded return, but no word comes from Kale directly. Then, in the dead of night, the horns sound. Not the triumphant call of victory, the desperate wail of emergency. Saren races to the courtyard, her heart in her throat, and finds chaos. Horses foam and stagger with exhaustion. Warriors carry wounded on makeshift stretchers, and at their center, directing the chaos with urgent commands, rides Brennan. His scarred face is pale with something she's never seen on him before: fear. "Where is the king?" Saren demands, pushing through the crowd. Brennan's eyes find hers, and her world tilts. Ambushed. Blackmoor had allies we didn't know about. The Thornwick pack joined their cause. The king held the rear guard while we retreated. "Where is he?" She grabs Brennan's arm, her voice rising. Where is Kale? Wounded. Badly. Brennan dismounts with pained effort. She realizes now that he's injured too. Blood seeping through his armor. Silver weapons. Poisoned blades. We tried to reach him, but there were too many. He ordered us to fall back, to protect the main force. He's still out there? Horror claws at her chest. Alone? A small guard remains with him. But the poison, Brennan's voice cracks. Our wolves can't heal from silver corruption. He'll die before we can mount a rescue. No, 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 no. How far? Saren is already moving, her mind racing. How far to where you left him? Half a day's hard ride. But my lady, you can't. I can heal silver poison. The words come out fierce, certain. I've done it before. Take me to him. Brennan hesitates, glancing toward the fortress where Mordecai has emerged, his pale eyes taking in the scene with calculating interest. The king ordered me to protect you above all else. If I take you into enemy territory, if you don't take me, he dies. Saren steps closer, letting him see the steel in her gaze. And I will never forgive you. Now saddle a fresh horse. Something in her voice breaks through his resistance. He nods once, sharply. Prepare the fastest mounts, he commands the nearby grooms. We ride in 5 minutes. Saren turns toward the fortress to gather supplies and finds Mordecai blocking her path. Going somewhere? His voice is silk over poison. To save your nephew's life. She refuses to be intimidated. Not now, not with Kale's life hanging in the balance. How convenient. Mordecai's thin smile doesn't reach his eyes. The perfect opportunity to prove your loyalty or to ensure the king never returns. Step aside. For a moment, she thinks he'll refuse. Then, slowly, he moves. I'll be watching, he warns softly. Every choice you make out there, every decision, and if my nephew dies, I'll ensure you follow him to the grave. Saren pushes past him without another word, her heart already riding toward the man she loves. The ride is brutal. Saren pushes her horse to its limits. Brennan and a small guard of warriors flanking her as they tear through the night. Every hoofbeat is a prayer. Every mile a battle against the terror clawing at her chest. Hold on, she begs silently. Please hold on. They find the camp at dawn, hidden in a narrow canyon that provides natural defense. The guards who remained with Kale challenge their approach, then sag with relief when they recognize Brennan. Is she the healer? One asks desperately. Thank the moon. He's fading fast. They lead her to a makeshift tent, where the Alpha King lies motionless on a bed of gathered pine boughs. The sight of him steals her breath. His face is ashen, his breathing shallow and labored. Black veins spider across his chest from a wound in his side, the telltale mark of silver poison spreading through his system. He looks nothing like the powerful wolf who kissed her goodbye on the battlements. He looks like he's dying. Everyone out, Saren orders, falling to her knees beside him. Her hands are already glowing as she presses them to his chest. I need silence and space. The guards retreat. Brennan hesitates at the tent entrance. Can you save him? I don't know. The truth scrapes her throat raw. But I will die trying. He nods once and disappears, leaving her alone with the man she loves. The healing is the hardest she's ever attempted. The silver poison fights her at every turn, burning through her energy like acid through cloth. She pours everything she has into his failing body, chasing the corruption through his veins, forcing it back inch by agonizing inch. Hours pass. The sun rises higher, then begins to fall. Saren's strength fades with it. Her vision blurs, her hands tremble, but she refuses to stop. If she stops, he dies. It's that simple. Come back to me, she whispers, tears streaming down her face. Please, Kale. I can't do this without you. I won't. Somewhere in the darkness of his consciousness, she feels him stir. A flicker of response, faint but present. She seizes it, pouring her own life force into the connection. It's dangerous. She could drain herself completely, could die alongside him. But what is life worth if he's not in it? The silver poison shatters. One moment it's there, corrupting his blood, killing him cell by cell. The next, her healing light floods through him like a golden sunrise, burning away the darkness, knitting flesh and bone back together with fierce determination. Kale gasps, his eyes flying open. Saren. Her name on his lips is the sweetest sound she's ever heard. Then she collapses. She wakes to warmth and softness, and the steady thrum of a heartbeat beneath her ear. Disoriented, she realizes she's lying on the pine bough bed, cradled against Kale's chest. Easy. His voice is rough but strong. His arms tighten around her protectively. You nearly killed yourself saving me. Worth it, she mumbles against his skin. His laugh is more of an exhale, shaky with relief and something deeper. Foolish, stubborn woman. If you had died. But I didn't. She forces herself to look up at him, to see with her own eyes that he's alive, that the color has returned to his face and the poison has left his veins, and neither did you. For a long moment, they simply hold each other, breathing in the miracle of survival. Then Brennan's voice carries from outside the tent. My king, we need to move. Scouts report Blackmore forces approaching. Reality crashes back. The war isn't over. They're still in enemy territory, still surrounded by wolves who want them dead. Kale rises with careful movements, testing his healed body. Saren can see the wonder in his eyes as he stretches without pain, as he feels the strength return to his limbs. How long was I unconscious? He asks. Nearly 18 hours, Brennan reports, ducking into the tent. The healer worked through the night and most of the day. She wouldn't stop, wouldn't rest, and wouldn't let anyone else near you. Kale's amber gaze finds hers, blazing with an emotion so intense it makes her breath catch. We need to return to Stormvale, he says, but his gaze doesn't leave her face. The pack needs its king, and I need to deal with some unfinished business. The journey home is slower than the desperate ride out. Saren's strength returns gradually, bolstered by Kale's constant presence at her side. He refuses to let her ride alone, instead pulling her onto his horse and holding her close as they travel. They arrive at Stormvale to find the fortress in chaos. What's happening? Kale demands as they ride through the gates. A guard hurries forward, his face pale. My king, it's your uncle. Lord Mordecai has declared himself regent in your absence. He's been arresting anyone loyal to the healer, claiming they've been corrupted by her influence. Ice floods Saren's veins. This is her fault. She transformed too much, changed too many hearts, and now Mordecai is using it as justification for a coup. Where is he? Kale's voice carries the deadly calm of a predator about to strike. The Great Hall, my king. He's gathered his supporters there. He claims you're dead, and that he must lead in your place. Kale dismounts and reaches up to help Saren down. His hands linger on her waist, his eyes searching her face. Stay here. This could get violent. No. She grips his arms firmly. I caused this. I face it with you. He wants to argue, she can see it in the tension of his jaw, but he recognizes the resolve in her expression, the same determination that drove her to ride through the night to save him. Together, then, he says quietly. Together. They stride into the fortress side by side, their joined presence causing gasps and shouts of disbelief. The king lives. The rumors of his death were lies. The great hall doors burst open before them. Mordecai stands on the raised dais where Kael usually holds court, surrounded by warriors loyal to the old ways. His face goes white when he sees his nephew, then hardens into cold resolve. Impossible, he breathes. The silver poison should have killed you. It nearly did. Kael's voice carries to every corner of the hall. But my mate saved me, just as she's saved countless others in this pack while I was away. Your mate corrupted this pack. Mordecai's composure cracks, revealing the fanaticism beneath. She's made them soft, dependent, weak, everything we've built for generations, destroyed by one Omega's poison kindness. She's made them whole. Kael continues forward, his warriors falling in behind him. For the first time in my memory, I see a pack that doesn't just survive, they live. They laugh, they hope, they heal. This is not our way. Then perhaps our way was wrong. The words hang in the air like thunder. Mordecai's face twists with rage. I won't let you destroy us. His hand moves to his belt, drawing a dagger that gleams with familiar oily sheen. Silver. Poison. If you won't lead as you should, then I'll find an heir who will. He lunges. Kael moves like lightning. He catches Mordecai's wrist mid-strike, the poisoned blade stopping inches from his chest. For a moment, uncle and nephew strain against each other, matched in strength if not in conviction. You would kill me? Kael's voice is quiet, dangerous. After everything you taught me, after raising me from the ashes of my parents' pack, I would save you from yourself. Mordecai's pale eyes burn with fanatic certainty. The boy I raised would never have been so weak. She's destroyed everything I made you to be. She's shown me what I could become. With a savage twist, Kael wrenches the dagger from his uncle's grip, but Mordecai isn't finished. He shifts with the speed of desperation, his wolf form exploding outward in a blur of gray fur and snapping teeth. The hall erupts into chaos. Mordecai's supporters surge forward, but they're met by warriors loyal to the king, warriors whose lives Saren has touched, whose wounds she's healed, whose hearts she's softened without even trying. The clash of bodies and snarls fills the air. Saren presses against the wall, searching desperately for Kael in the melee. She finds him locked in combat with his uncle, two massive wolves circling each other with deadly intent. They're evenly matched. Mordecai has age and experience, Kael has youth and strength, but then she sees what no one else does: Mordecai's silver dagger, still on the floor where it fell, and a loyal supporter crawling toward it. "Kael!" she screams. He turns at her voice, just as the supporter grabs the blade and throws. The dagger spins through the air, aimed directly at the king's heart. Saren doesn't think. She runs. Her body collides with Kael's, shoving him sideways as the blade meant for him buries itself in her shoulder instead. Pain explodes through her, silver fire spreading through her veins. She hears Kael's roar of fury as if from a great distance, sees him tear through the wolf who threw the dagger, sees him turn on Mordecai with murder in his eyes. What follows is brief and brutal. The Alpha King's wolf is magnificent in its wrath, a creature of shadow and rage that gives no quarter. Mordecai fights desperately, but he's outmatched by the sheer force of Kael's fury. Within moments, it's over. Mordecai lies motionless on the stone floor. His challenge ended permanently, but Saren barely registers the victory. The silver poison spreads through her body, stealing her breath, dimming her vision. She's dying, she realizes distantly. How strange that it doesn't hurt more. No, Kael is human again, gathering her in his arms, his face a mask of devastation. "No, Saren, stay with me, stay with me." "Had to," she manages. "Couldn't let you. You foolish, brave, impossible woman." His voice breaks. "I can't lose you. Not now. Not ever." Her hand finds his cheek, trembling with the effort. "I love you." The words feel like a gift, even as darkness creeps at the edges of her vision. "Heal yourself," Kael begs. "Please. Use your gift." "Can't. The silver is too strong, too fast. She can feel it reaching for her heart. Too weak. Then take my strength." He presses his forehead to hers, his eyes blazing gold. "Take everything I have. I give it freely." The mate bond flares between them, that connection she's felt since the first moment their eyes met. Only now, it's more than recognition. It's a bridge, a lifeline, a cord of pure golden light connecting his soul to hers. His strength flows into her like a river. Saren gasps as energy floods her depleted body. With Kael's life force bolstering her own, she turns her healing inward, chasing the silver poison through her own veins just as she did for him. It takes everything they both have. The hall falls silent around them as the pack watches their king pour his very essence into the woman he loves. And then, finally, the poison breaks. Saren draws a shuddering breath as the darkness recedes. Color returns to the world. Pain fades to memory. "Saren?" Kael's voice is ragged with hope and terror. "I'm here." She opens her eyes to find his face inches from hers, tears tracking down his cheeks. "I'm here." He kisses her then desperately, tenderly, like she's the air he needs to breathe. Around them, the hall erupts in cheers, but neither of them notices. Spring returns to Stormvale, and with it, transformation beyond anything the realm has ever known. The fortress that once echoed only with the clash of weapons now rings with laughter and song. Gardens bloom in courtyards where warriors once trained in grim silence. Children play freely, their joy unrestricted by the fear of appearing weak. Healing is no longer shameful, it's celebrated. Warriors who once hid their injuries now seek treatment openly, understanding at last that caring for oneself isn't weakness but wisdom. Kael rules with a steady hand, his strength tempered by compassion. The Alpha King who once believed mercy would destroy him has become living proof that it can build something greater than fear ever could. And at his side, always, is Saren, the Omega who was sold by her own family, rejected and discarded as worthless, now stands as Queen of Stormvale. Her healing gift has become legend, not just for the wounds she mends, but for the hearts she's transformed. On the night of the first spring moon, the entire pack gathers in the great courtyard. Kael takes Saren's hand before them all, his golden eyes soft with devotion. "You were brought to me by betrayal," he says, his deep voice carrying to every ear. "Your family saw you as worthless. Your enemies saw you as prey. But I see you as you truly are, the strongest wolf I've ever known." He raises her hand to his lips. "You didn't just save my life. You saved my soul. You taught me that real strength isn't about how much pain you can endure, but how much love you can give." Under the silver light of the moon, he marks her officially as his mate. His gentle bite is a promise, a covenant, an eternal bond. Their wolves sing together not in dominance, but in harmony. Two souls that were never meant to be apart, finally and forever united. The pack howls its blessing to the stars. And Saren, the rejected Omega who became a queen, finally understands the truth her heart knew all along. She was never worthless. She was just waiting to be found. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story.